Hey guys, welcome back to Spilling It with Sammy Kurtz, and today I have one of my best friends, Claudia, and today we are chatting all about toxic is toxic regardless if we're talking about family or not.
Yes.
So this is a topic that we didn't get a lot of questions through on this one, but again, like almost every episode I do, I see like a pattern coming through with like the questions. So I'll get to those in a minute, but I wanted to just chat about like a little bit about Claudia and I's friendship because this is actually pretty much kind of how we became friends.
Yes.
Yeah. So I put something up on Instagram basically saying, I think I was trying to attract like more like-minded, better people into my life. Typical like vulnerable post from Sammy, and out of that came this friendship.
Yes.
So Claudia reached out to me. I don't know, you'd followed me for a little while because
I followed you for a little while.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, our friendship, like I was like, oh, I'm not sure if she's my vibe.
Yeah.
But there was so many things like
We had
as
in
you
common.
I think as you were like going through a big change yourself, we connected over
Totally.
obviously the family stuff.
Well, yeah, because we have a lot in common.
Yes.
Like even just now, obviously, I did the blended family thing. I did the co-parenting thing. Well, I still do the co-parenting thing.
Same.
But like the single mum gig,
Yes.
all of it.
Yes.
Like we have a lot in common. So, yeah, and then I can't even, we went and had lunch.
We did.
We literally went
It was like a
had
blind
lunch.
date.
It literally was.
So awkward.
And we showed up and our hair was the same. We had dressed the same.
Yeah.
Like we literally joke and like call each other Solly or like sister because it's just, or twinny. That's what it is.
little
Because we're
twin.
just like, what? Are we the same person?
I know, it's
But
very
we even each other out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're-
I'm like
we're
that
each other's-
extrovert, fiery.
Yeah, and I'm more introvert, more shy.
I need more of that in my life though.
And then I probably need to be pulled out of my shell.
Totally.
So
I
it's
did that
good.
for you, girl.
It's good. It's good.
So basically, I mean, I've spoken about this a lot publicly because
Yes.
you kind of knew about it.
That's
but
why I connected.
totally.
Probably was the biggest thing we connected over to begin with.
Yeah. And it has been really hard for me to talk about this publicly because I think when it comes to family, you always are going to have that little glimmer of hope that things are going to change and that you will have that healthy relationship with your family. Because one of the questions I got asked is how my family situation is now after my dad passed away. And I'd be lying if I said, like, Dad and I weren't really speaking when we found out, you know, he's about to die, going to palliative care. And that was really hard for me to digest because even as a 32-year-old woman with kids of my own now, even though we weren't speaking and I was getting on with my life, there wasn't one day that I didn't think about him and be that little child with that glimmer of hope, just being like, hopefully, you know, they will miss me and they'll want to know where I live or, you know, they'll call my phone or those that know where I live, maybe they'll show up on my doorstep.
We
Are they thinking about
romanticize it,
It's like it's literally like a toxic relationship with literally like a significant other.
Yeah. It's your original love. It's the
Totally.
connecting the mother wound, the father, like it's everything.
And that is why, like, if you're someone out there, like so much stuff when it comes to family or stuff with your parents or inner child wounds, mother wounds, father wounds, whatever it is. So much of it also is all connected to like relationships and love and, you know, how we act in our adult lives. So, you know, we could go down a bloody rabbit hole here chatting about this because this is also how and why I've become so passionate about parenting.
Yes.
Because like for me, we were just chatting about this before we started, but I've had this big realization of late, like this, you know, I've accepted that where I know that I need to distance myself. Like, and I don't know about you, but I feel like you get to this point and it's like you either need to accept them for who they are.
Yes.
Or you just need to cut it completely.
I suppose when you're going through the process and I was doing a lot of therapy, I had those boundaries in place and I envisioned what I needed for my future, for my children, and just for myself.
Yeah.
And you put those boundaries in place and you kind of see if they can live by them or if they cannot.
If they disrespect
If
them.
they disrespect it, if they just
challenge it,
if they're just going to always push the boundaries with it.
Yeah.
And you need to decide what is best for you and your family, or just yourself and your soul.
And I think also, I don't know about you, I think we've spoken about this, but there's so much that you can take when you're like just a grown up by yourself, an individual,
Solo.
but when you then have kids, that was like the icebreaker for me.
Yes.
Like I just was like, you know, didn't want, number one, my children to witness that toxic relationship with my mother or father and think, oh, this is how I treat my mum and dad, or this is what normal family is like. So that was like a big driving force for me. But
You're
also
really in that back and forth, that toxic relationship.
that's what I was going to say, the back and forth.
We're trying to break these traumas. We're trying to stop the generational traumas from continuing.
Well, it's breaking the cycle as well. There's another rabbit hole we could literally go down. But yeah, that was the other thing, just like, you know, feeling like it comes even to attachment styles, which I've just been talking about on my Instagram.
Yes.
But it's just like comes back to the other thing for me is I found, you know, they would just pick and choose when they wanted to be a part of my life.
And it's always those big events when it's a birthday or it's Christmas and then
get their little tick off.
They tick it, but then they usually ruin it. They usually put some dark cloud over it. You're anxious. The kids are picking up on it. And then those beautiful moments are really tainted by this, by your family. And you just kind of get to the point where you think, is it worth it? Do I want this?
And that's not what I wanted for my kids. So realistically, I probably would have continued to, one, be treated like this, two, treat them. That's the other thing I want to say. It's not all, say, my family. You know what I mean? No. Like, it's not just like they're to blame, they're evil people. I truly have come to a point in my life where I've been like, they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had, and this is their journey. I just wish I had some of the same understanding and open-mindedness in return. And then maybe that's where we could meet halfway and have somewhat of a healthy relationship.
I think as people get older, you get set in your ways, the ego kicks in. And that's one thing, you know, we're learning about, and we have to accept it, because if you speak to them and they're just so closed off to it, that's okay. That's their path.
It will be one of the hardest things if you're going through this that you will have to accept. I still have moments where, like I said, with that glimmer of hope, if I get like a random phone call, of course I'm going to answer, because I'm just like, oh my God, like, or like I'm actually at a point, unfortunately, with my family that it just is so distant, and we all are such different people that are all struggling to accept each other for who we are on our own journeys, that when I do get a phone call, I'm at a place where I'm like kind of like, who's died? Like, you know, what's like, going on?
Must be something really
something
bad.
Serious, you know? And that's the other thing, the other reason that I was just talking about but didn't finish before with my kids. I want consistency for my kids because I didn't get it. And again, leads into attachment styles, that fear of abandonment, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want my kids, you know, I wanted grandparents and family who genuinely took interest in my children's lives and wanted to be around them and wasn't just there for the big.
And love them so much.
Totally. Know them.
Can't be away from them. It's not a phone call going, oh, what are you up to this month? It's, oh, you go to the school to pick them up just because you can, just because you want to be involved. And a lot of grandparents are like that, which is what we've talked about.
We get very triggered.
We're like,
jealous, like I'll admit it. I feel envy and jealousy probably on, you know, the weekly, the monthly, when I jump on social media,
sadness,
it triggers so many emotions. But like jealousy is one of the emotions I hate feeling. Like hate it. And for the record, if any of you out there are experiencing jealousy feelings, from my learnings, I have actually learned that is a emotion that usually comes from childhood and like living in a competitive environment or a competitive family. And I didn't realize that. And when I learned that, I was like, makes sense, because I came from a broken family and it was very divided, and it was very, I remember, and like my sisters actually felt the same way, I think. Like, you know, I've heard her say like, oh, she's just the favorite child. And it's so funny because I've felt the same with her at times. So there's been a lot of, you know, different rules for each child, or
yes.
Like,
Ding, ding, ding.
I know, and I feel like I even see it now as a parent to my kids. I'm way harder on the eldest than I am on the youngest, and it's different kids, different characteristics, different personalities. But then for us, we also, like, when my parents finally got a divorce, I left with dad and she stayed with mum. So very, very broken, very, very different. Things like that. So that competitive household is then what can lead into feelings of jealousy or being a very jealous person as an adult, which makes sense. I even just coached a girl recently, and she opened up to me and she said that. She's like, I'm such a jealous person.
Really?
And I said to her, I was like, I want you to dive deeper on that, and I want you to like journal on like maybe what back in the day could have made you jealous as a child. And same thing. She's like, it was very competitive. It was like playing kids off against each other, or you know, it makes sense though.
That's some pretty heavy manipulation right there.
I know. Ooh. But you know what? Like, that's what else I was getting into before when we were talking about like the boundaries.
Yes.
If you, like I said, we could go down a rabbit hole. Have a look at the relationships you're in. Like, have you ever heard, oh, you end up dating your father or marrying your father or dating your mother and marrying your mother?
Yeah, definitely.
No wonder we do, though, because that was our first,
that's
like,
our first love.
Our first love, our first role models when it comes to love. And regardless of how our parents treat us, whether it's super abusive, it's super healthy, whatever it is, that's our normal. That's don't know any different.
It's what we feel like. You will literally go out and choose it. I've done it, and it was very bad. And it's a mindset of, it's what you know, it's comforting.
Yeah, it's familiar.
It's familiar.
Regardless of how fucked up it is.
Yeah, no matter how toxic that relationship is, and then you're thinking, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this when I'm so young. You're emulating your first role models. You're copying that
One of the most painful things I've ever... But I feel like I count my lucky stars that I got put in a relationship with someone that was literally half my father, half my mother.
Oh, wow.
Because I literally realised it halfway through the relationship. Okay. And then I found out about trauma bonds. So I have a lot of trauma and a father wound and a mother wound. And then I've attracted this person that's literally half of each. And I mean, like, the things that triggered me the most in my father and the things that triggered me the most in my mother were all in one person.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was, I knew I couldn't be with this person, but at the same time I was just like, I can't leave because it feels like home. Yeah, because you're that little child again.
Yeah, that inner child.
You know?
Going, this is it. This is love. This is what I was, this is
familiar. Yeah, this person loves you.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like, it's a version of love. Healthy, no.
Yeah, no.
Aversion.
Not healthy.
Toxic
at
love.
all.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I wanted to bring up that side of relationships because we've both done that as well. We've had to learn that the hard way.
I've done it in the younger years, most definitely.
Which mine was in the fucking younger years.
I know. Like, yeah, it's a good time to do in the younger years.
But when you go through that, like, you have a choice. You have a choice at the end of the day. And I am never going to be someone now to say, just leave. So much easier said than done. But if something doesn't feel right, and, you know, if you do watch this episode and you are going, oh, yeah, like, you do remind me of my father or my mother or that person that I have unresolved trauma with, just wanted to bring it up so you guys can start to have that self-reflection and like really look at the relationship for what it is and why you may have attracted that, and you will stay there until the lessons are learnt. And I can promise you, if and when it is right for you to get up and leave and that's not a part of your journey, there's so much amazingness on the other side. Look how much I've learned.
Yeah, you really grow and you think, wow, like, if I'd known the path to healing is hard. We're not going to like
healing is not easy.
It's not easy. It's not pretty. It's really traumatic at times, but in other ways, you're so strong and resilient from it.
I think you just have. I think this is what I say to my coaching clients. Like, I hate even calling my program a self-love program because I'm just like, self-love sounds light and fluffy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's about doing the work. And I even hate saying doing the work. It's so overused these days. Yeah. But it's just a healing journey. And it is just that, a journey. Sometimes you feel so powerful and like, oh, I feel fucking good. Like there's nothing but good and abundance coming for me. And other times you go through something like, I don't know, shadow work. and like so many triggers, and you're like, where is that coming from? And it's just, you just got to be kind to yourself. I don't know if something like this, when it comes to family, is ever healed.
I don't think it ever heals. From all the therapy I've done, it is managed. You manage,
yes.
Because, you know, we're feelers, we're meant to, we're going to have Christmases and birthdays
well,
and
no one's
weddings.
ever going to accept that, oh, hey, like, I don't get to spend Christmas with my mum and dad.
It's a horrible feeling.
Horrible. Like, big holidays trigger me.
Yes.
Hate Christmas. This is why I'm so, like, you know, again, when it comes to relationships, I used to really push down and didn't want to voice how badly I wanted to find my husband, or you know what I mean, like a healthy relationship. But now I will say it loud and proud, because there's so many things that come with that. There's like a life that you build together, but for me it's like I feel like I've never truly had a family. So it's mainly that family unit that I'm looking totally. It's tough. It's really tough. Even up to, like, let's use you as a prime example for this week. Like I said, you have that glimmer of hope that things are going to, you know, and I think I'll still hold on to that. Like, my father's passed away, so that's been the hardest thing I've had to deal with, is, you know, letting go of that hope. I think it is nice to hold on to that hope, because even though I would get upset every day, it's like another week would go by, he hasn't contacted me. But then when he had, like, I got the news and it's like he's never coming back, it's like I had I had like a year or two of holding on to hope, and then there was nothing. There was no hope anymore. And I think regardless of how much you come to terms with it, regardless of how much you accept it, regardless of how much you distance yourself, you just will always have that glimmer of hope.
Most definitely. And it's always changing. Like, my kids ask for their grandparents. They ask to have them a part of their lives. I know they'll never be a part of my life and my partner's life. We've put that boundary in place because we just know we can't coexist. We can be civil. But for the kids, it's trying to find a new sense of normal. And the thing is, it could change. You just don't know. And I'm in this real transition phase of, where are we going? I don't know. But I have my boundaries for my children as well. Like, if you can't make a phone call once a week, if that's too hard, then, you know, we've tried it, and then we can have that conversation with our children and let them know why.
It's hard when they're so young. They don't understand.
They don't understand. You don't want to put anything on them. So you're trying to walk this really...
And you don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Because us distancing ourselves is actually us thinking about our kids. And
it's
being
us
like,
trying to protect them from the future.
You know?
So, but they ask for them, and it's a really horrible phase.
It's hard.
It's hard, but I feel comfortable that I've done everything in my power for myself, for my partner, and for that relationship. We're now in the transitional phase with the children of we've had no contact. And then if they can handle a phone call, we'll just take it day at a time. Nothing has to be permanent. If people are open to therapy, I'm a big one for people grow and change. I've changed, you've changed, but situations sometimes don't change. So you just have to do what feels best for you and respect your boundaries and yourself.
And it's the same as a relationship, I think. Like, me personally, I'm the kind of person that would exhaust every avenue.
Agreed.
And I feel like, you know, that it's not, go to therapy. Highly recommend therapy, because it can be quite traumatic, regardless of what your experience is. Our family situations are still different, but similar. So highly recommend therapy for yourself.
If they will go.
Totally. But, like, at least for yourself. But then, like, I wish that, like, my parents had have been open to one, going for themselves, but two, going together. Like, I know me as a parent now, if I come through challenges and tough times with my kids and I don't know how to deal with it, I'm going to go get that professional help, that outsider, to see how I can better myself as a parent, and maybe so having that, like, referee almost can, like, with my kids.
Well, I remember in that process of before we were putting that final boundary in place, I requested, can we do counselling? Can we do therapy? But for the previous generations, and you'll find as well, That is not what they do a lot of the time. They're very close to it. They're very set in their ways. And we have to respect that. You have to
Again,
come to
accept
terms
it.
Accept it. That's their path.
You
that's
tried.
their journey. You tried. If you can say, I tried my best.
Yeah.
I'm respecting myself and respecting them. That's all you can do. Like,
and that's where it comes back to exhausting all avenues.
Agreed.
I think, like, once I got to the point where I was like, I have nothing left to give.
Same.
I've tried everything to be a part of your life, your kids' lives, or like my mum and dad's life.
Agreed.
Like, and for me personally, it got to a point where, because after my dad died, I didn't finish answering that question. I wasn't really on talking terms with any of my family. And so...
That's grief as well.
Totally.
Agreed.
But it actually brought us together, obviously, because of the funeral and stuff like that. And it brought us together. But then once everyone, like, left and went home after the funeral, which, mind you, if you ever lose someone, that's literally the worst time. It's after the funeral, after everyone's gone home and everyone stops checking in on you and things like that. But once everyone went home... And I was warned this when my dad passed away. Someone said it tore my family apart. And I think I don't really know any different. My family's already been torn apart.
Yes.
But when my dad passed away, I actually thought maybe that's going to be the thing to bring us back together. And it definitely didn't. Grief is just something that, like me especially, I'm one of those people, I don't like talking about my dad really, like, but again, that's a lot of trauma and stuff. Even with my psychologist, I struggle to talk about my dad, but I think for me, I can only speak on my, like, journey with grief, but I saw, like, when it came to, when we were together at Christmas, because I really pushed myself to be there for the kids, and because it was the first Christmas without my dad, I noticed me, my mum, my sister, like, we were all grieving very differently. So I think that's why people distance themselves after things like that, because it's just, I don't understand her grieving process. She doesn't understand mine. Yeah. And grief is something that you really need to, like, you need support around you. But from my experience, it's like a you thing. It's a lone time. It's it's a very lonely kind of journey to really figure out how you're going to grieve. So it definitely put more of a strain on our relationship, I would say. And for me personally, I can only talk on my side of things. One, I had felt like I'd exhausted all avenues with all of my family members. I felt like I'd tried to organize things like weekly dinners or phone calls or setting those boundaries, and not mainly for my kids, to be honest, and like my kids and their cousins and that kind of thing. And remember, this is just my perspective. Like, my mum, sister, dad, everyone would have a completely different perspective on the outside looking in of how I acted. Yeah,
I've definitely heard that from, like, other members of the family and their interpretation. You know, there's always three sides to a story. Yeah,
their side, your side, and the truth.
And that is so true.
It is so true.
And like, I think it takes a lot of work to kind of go, well, this is my side. Is
well,
it wrong? Is it right? No, like, everyone's got their side, and we all just have to accept it.
There wouldn't be so much tension if you both saw from each other's point of views.
100%,
you know what I mean?
100%.
And unfortunately, sometimes you get to a point where you're just beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
You're not going to understand me. You're not going to see from my point of view, and vice versa.
Or you feel like with my family, I always felt like I was giving so much. I was always trying to be the adult, always trying to, like,
I felt like that since I was 5.
Yeah, stepping up, because we're both the eldest. So it's like, oh no, they don't know better, or they haven't done therapy.
And if your parents were young, like my parents were 18 and 19.
17. Well, 16 when she was pregnant, 17.
Like, they're babies having babies. Yeah. So that's another thing that's really helped me accept them for who they are, because I'm like my dad died at 51. Yeah, so I was just like, you had no idea what you were doing. Yeah. Like, when I hear about their lives back then, I'm just like, you know, and I had no idea what I was doing at 27, but I definitely had more of my shit together than what they did.
I remember being like 17 and going, oh my God, my mum had a baby right there. She was like walking around with a baby as I'm going to formal and schoolies, and it's mind altering to realize, like, mentally they were just so young and they were doing the best they could.
Totally.
In those times. They were in such different times. It was the old, like, speak, not be heard.
Oh, we were taught. This is like a massive thing when it comes to breaking cycles. Like, who remembers out there when were your parents the type that would be like, children would be seen not heard?
Yes.
Like, no wonder we're all so fucked up and we've all
Yeah.
got, like, we can't regulate or honour our emotions.
Yeah.
It's like we're not meant to be heard.
Shut those
like,
emotions.
you know?
Shh,
You can't feel anything.
Don't feel it.
See you later.
Don't speak about it.
Totally.
And that's why there was a lot of abuse that went on that people never spoke about. It was just...
Totally.
Put it away. We don't want people to know about this.
Totally.
And that's their
and they couldn't handle it.
No.
And to be honest, the one way that I've been able to accept that behaviour is, one, realising my mum and dad learnt that from their mum and dad.
Yes.
And I've just been the one that they're like, we pick you. You're the one to break the cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm like grateful for that for me
Yes.
and my kids. But I'm also like, this is fucked up hard.
I was like why couldn't
so
it happen
hard.
before us?
I know. Like literally, like my kids better thank me every day for this
Yeah, when
shit.
they're like turning over, do you know how much like self work we did for you?
Literally.
And they'll be looking at us like,
Literally.
you seem fine.
I know.
Exactly.
I always, though, from a very young age, felt like the black sheep of the family,
Yeah.
and
so did
that I didn't really fit in there.
With my like family dynamic, I was the eldest of a lot of the cousins. I was like, just was different.
Yeah.
So, and I was told that, oh, you're different. And you're thinking, oh, why? Why am I different? But I think it's because we're meant to be the ones who stop these traumas
Totally.
and these generational
Or just wake up to,
secrets.
like, you know, like, I hate to say this because I love my parents deeply and I have accepted them for who they are and their journey. I just wish I could get a bit of that in return.
That's okay.
But I hate to use that term, but I remember it was my kid's dad and it was just a typical fight that I would have with my mum. Like, I reckon out of my 32 years of age, like when you add up the times that we haven't spoken, I reckon it's probably 8 years of my life gone from not speaking to my parents. Like them not even knowing where I lived for 6 months at a time, just not speaking. And I will never forget my kid's dad one night. It was just like the messages coming back and forth. And he's like, Sammy, I'm sorry, but that is abuse.
Yes.
Like, you cannot speak to your kids like that. And I'll never forget that night because I was like, oh.
Well, I think it's also that, well, you're an adult now. You can take it.
Totally.
And you still think, well, whether I'm a 50-year-old, 80-year-old, I'm still your child. And I will always have, you know, that mother-daughter bond with my own daughter and my sons.
Totally.
It's still...
You're always a parent.
I'm still your parent. And there's still a respect of it. And I'm still the one who needs to be the bigger person and teach you better.
Yeah.
And guide you through... We're mentors.
When you say, so that was what I was going to say before, I think one big thing, especially in my family, is it must be a generational thing, but I felt a lot of control from my parents and like a lot of pressure to be who they wanted me to be. And it was just like they would try and mold and control me into what they wanted for a daughter or what they wanted for my life. And that's why they can't accept me for who I am, because they didn't take on the role as a parent as a guide and a mentor. They took it more on as a, I've got to control this person to end up to have a specific life and live a certain way.
Agreed.
And I have dealt with that a lot as a parent. I've only just woken up to that kind of in the last year and realised that's not what we're meant to do. Like, I look back to my life of half the shit my parents wouldn't even know I've gotten up to. Yeah. And, like, it gives me anxiety when I think about my kids. But I'm like, we've all got our plans and paths and journeys already written out for us. Like, it's going to be what it's going to be. Yes. And you just need to be that support system for them. And you need to be a parent and that role model and that person that can guide them and give them the advice.
You can give them all of the... you know, talk and say, don't do this and do that and teach them right from wrong. But what they do is on them. Your job is just
you can't control them.
Can't control them.
It's like if your kid grows up, like this is one of my biggest fears and I need to stop thinking about it. But what if one of your kids grows up to become a full-blown drug addict?
Yeah.
Like an ice addict.
Yeah.
We can't, again, that's where a parent would need to learn to, just like as children, we've needed to learn to distance ourselves and remove ourselves. But you have to accept it, and you cannot control people, whether we're talking about a relationship, whether we're talking a parent and a child, in a friendship, anything. You cannot control anyone.
All you can do is support and love and hope that the words of wisdom and the guidance that you've given them falls into place. But after that, that's their journey, and you just have to let them fly. And our parents had to let us fly and
detach
and just be, I'm here when if you fall off the cliff, I'm here. But like I told
sometimes
you,
it would be nice to have that reassurance though. You know,
and
just to be like
safety net of, if you need me, I'm here. I'll always love you. But you need to go out and fly in the big wide world. And you're okay.
Yeah, well, that's how.
That's the goal.
That's the ideal life.
Oh God, that's the dream.
Totally ideal.
Like, drug addicts, not so much. Like we're trying not for that.
And it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but it does. There's so much you can do as a parent to make sure, but there's so many other outside influences in like life and things like that. But yeah, you just have to. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to like make this video out like my family are awful people. They honestly did the best that they could, and that's what else I was going to say. You sometimes, if you're someone out there and you're like, you know, this was kind of how I knew that I had to fly. I had to get away and I had to fly on my own, because I was realizing like I would have to armor myself with crystals to go be around them, because if you're in a relationship too, your significant other would notice it, because mine noticed it.
Every time you go around them, that you would change, your children would vibe. You're drained, you're anxious, because you're preparing yourself. It's like you're going to an emotional warfare.
Literally.
And you're literally there with your lavender.
Sage.
You sage your car as you get out. Like, it is, and you realise, I don't think this is normal.
I know. And it's when you have kids or you like grow to a certain age and you're like, this isn't normal. It shouldn't be this hard. No. It's really toxic. And the final thing for me was just realizing we don't bring out the best in each other.
Yes.
Like for example, like, you know, even me and my sister, we're chalk and cheese, complete chalk and cheese. We do not understand each other. She would not want to live my life. I would not want to live her life. And we just, I think, for those reasons, triggered each other. Yeah. So like I love her with my whole heart. Like I have 2 nephews, you know, but that's also the things that you miss out on and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's why I had to think like, what's more important? Like my kids and her kids seeing each other on a weekly basis, which I would try to do, or is it like you have to weigh it up? Because yes, okay, cool, they may have a play or whatever for a couple of hours, but then I would come home emotionally drained, super triggered, really angry. We would potentially get in a fight when we hung out, and it was just like, then my kids, 1, have to see that, but 2, I come home and it could affect me for weeks on end.
I'm sure she was in the same position.
Totally.
I'm sure she was going home just thinking,
why the fuck do I bother?
Yeah, I'm sure it's like, and the same with, you know, when you spend time with your parents, they've like left you and vice versa, you think, oh God, when are we all just going to put our hand up and go,
I surrender.
We are just not connecting.
We just don't bring out the best in each other. Like you just that's literally what it comes down to. Yeah. The people in your life should, you know, there shouldn't be jealousy. You should be lifting each other up.
Yeah,
like
agreed.
You should be supporting one another. You should want the best for each other.
And it's always going to be a work in progress. Friendships are going to go up, down. Any type of relationship, you're going to have these kind of moments. But
if it's 80-90%
constantly down and you're constantly having to put yourself in an emotionally unstable state, then you know, no, this is not for me. And those boundaries that you've put in place to get there, if they're just constantly not being respected, then you know.
Well, that's abuse at the end of the day. Yeah. That again, but that word really is very dramatic.
Because like there's a lot of emotional attachment. There's a lot of expectation in society of, well, that's your mum.
That's what I was going to say. I hate when people go, but that's your mum. Like, that's your I dealt with that for years. Same. And because, like, you know, me and my sister are very connected still here on the coast, like so many people. But, like, you can love people from afar. Yeah. And you need to, you're the main character of your life. You need to think about you and you need to protect your energy. And I also think that's why when you become a parent is when you kind of draw a line in the sand. Yeah. Because it affects then you going home to parent your kids.
Yeah, and then you see the kids around it as well and you think, oh, here we go again. We're starting to see these issues still arising.
There's going to be an episode.
Yeah, there's going to be an episode. I'm worried about my kids being exposed to it, what that is going to do to them long term. It's just a minefield.
It's a roller coaster.
It really is.
It is a real
And your
roller
children,
coaster.
you're trying your best to get them to be 19, 20 years old and not need 12 years
as much therapy as us.
Yeah, you're like, I just want you to go in for some therapy just for yourself, not because of what I've traumatized you or your grandparents or an ex-partner. Like, you don't want your children to be so traumatized from your decisions.
Totally.
And people that you could have put some really strong boundaries and distance in place to protect them. But also, you know,
you just got to do what's right for number one and your family at the end of the day. Like, I work with a lot of people who are going through this, going through it. And you'll know when the time's right too.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't lie. If my mum was to show up on my doorstep today and say, let's go out for lunch, like... I'd probably go, because there's little 5-year-old Sammy just wanting her to love me.
Agreed.
And wanting her to be like, hey, let's hang out today. Like, that's all I've ever wanted. Yeah. So, of course, it doesn't matter how old you are, how grown up and mature you are, that inner child still has wants and needs. So, and I feel for you, my heart goes out to you if you are going through this. And because
it is lonely. And that's what we connect over is... literally one of this is the biggest topics.
Well, back to being a parent and how we get quite triggered and jealous when we see, like I was talking to someone about this the other day, and they said, I feel like so many people are breaking up these days and they're preferring to co-parent because when you get in a relationship, relationships can be hard work and they need to be prioritized. And when you have small children and a small family, you can get really caught up in the to-do list. So the constant like work and then kids and then the relationship comes last. And this is why people stray or break up or just fall out of love with each other. And so there are some relationships that I see are really healthy, and it's because they've got a good support network or family around them that will, you know, take the kids. They can go away for the weekend.
And she's like, I'm having a day with the kids, and their mum comes in and hubby comes home from work, or you've both had a bad day at work and grandma's there helping out and granddad's come over to take the kids to the park, and you go, that is the dream.
It takes a village to raise kids.
It does take a village, and if you don't have the village...
it's fucking hard.
It's really
hard. And it's triggering because you're seeing others with the village, and I know that's a projection of my own shit. Same. Like, I definitely know that. Yeah. But it's sad because not only do you want that for you... you want that for your kids. You want more people in. That's why when I did the co-parenting episode, I said to Chris, I'm so excited for you to be in a healthy relationship and me to be in a healthy relationship with the right people who will love our kids because
I've family grow.
Totally. I think that's why I've wanted a big family. Yeah. Like, I'm not cut out for this mothering bullshit. I really am not cut out for like more than 3 kids. But like sometimes I literally think
I'm 3
like,
deep and she is
even 3. I'm like, are you sure that you could do 3? I'm just like drowning this week with 2.
Yeah,
but that's a reason that I wanted a big family.
I used to be like that because I came from a family of 2 girls, same as you. I was
and
the
when
eldest,
it's broken or
and
just
it's broken, I was like, I just want lots of siblings for my children, so then they never feel this way. Even if there's issues going on, they've got someone else to go to.
Well, you see people and their siblings are like their best friends. And then you see people, some people's mums are their best friends.
I know.
When I see girls out shopping with their mum, I'm like, oh.
I know. I'm so...
or like their mum with their kids.
But then I think, but we've got our girls, and I think... but we've been given a second chance. We have our own little minis. Like, this is a blessing. And I think, I'm not screwing this up.
That's why, to be honest, that's why I felt that desperate need for a daughter. Because I was like, I want that second chance of a mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah,
100%.
I actually feel like the mother-daughter is so funny. And I feel like your boys. I feel like your boys become your little honeys. Yeah, your
boys are your honeys. I have a favourite child.
Not even discreet.
I feel like everyone does, and it can change.
It does change.
It definitely changes.
It does change.
As like it can change every day.
And they go through tantrums. You're like, you're really pushing mum.
Totally.
Love you so much, but wow.
I just think you definitely. Yeah, my heartstrings with my boy.
But then you just look at the perspective as well. You look around, you go, oh, your love changes at times. Yes, they drive you crazy. I don't understand how you can.
The minute Brooklyn gets a girlfriend I do not approve of, son. No, I don't want to be that mum.
I'm scared of
like,
you. I know that poor little child. This poor little 16-year-old girl.
I love that you're scared.
She's gonna walk in trying to impress you, and you're gonna be like, Not good enough.
I'm
petrified for him.
I'm definitely, like, if you knew my children, Brooklyn is just such a sweetheart with his like heart on his sleeve, and so I'm actually more worried about my son than my daughter. My daughter, she can hold her own. Yeah. I'm just like, she'll be fine.
Like, he's not worth meeting, Mum, and you're like, okay, honey.
Yeah, he's just a fuckboy. Cool, I get it.
Can you imagine?
Oh, but they're the conversations I could see with like my daughter. But when it comes to Brooklyn, I just feel like he would hide things from me because he knows he'd be like, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. Mum wouldn't approve of this.
Oh, bless.
I don't want to. It's funny how like breaking generational curses, but then it's like you could go the other way and like pick up all these other toxic traits. So
I know.
I'm going to try not be that mother-in-law or that, that mother-in-law.
No, these poor children. Don't worry, we'll pull you up. This poor little girl's going to need therapy.
I would have done enough work on myself by the time that boy starts dating.
They'll walk in, here's your crystal.
We love you for who you are. What's your birth chart? When were you born? Just let me, get back to you on that. On CoStar,
you'll be like,
are you compatible? Yeah.
They won't even make it through the door. You'll be doing that before they make it in.
I know. Oh my God. Anyway.
Good times.
Well, hopefully this episode helped anyone out there that has or continuing to go through this. Like we said, our heart goes out to you. It's not an easy road. No. Don't know if you'll ever be healed. But go and get therapy.
Therapy, number one.
Start accepting it for what it is.
And take care of you. Know that.
Do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Just because it's your mum or your dad or your brother or your sister.
Cousins or whatever it is in your life, or even a significant other. Like, toxic is toxic.
If you're not happy, if it's not bringing out the best version of you, then you have to let it go. Or you have to love people from afar, from a distance.
Love, with those boundaries in place.
You also can't, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. You cannot have those kinds of things over your head because so many people said to me, thought I would be carrying around so much guilt from not speaking to my dad when he passed. And in the beginning I was, but then, I've connected with him in spirit and he's said to me, he's actually vocalized to me and said, I can see why you did it. I respect it. I'm proud of you. So that really helped me get over that. But I do not have a regret of doing that, regardless if when he passed we weren't in communication or not. He didn't even get to meet my daughter and she was 6 months old, I think, when he passed. I do not have that regret because one, you can't change it. No. Why have that regret? But two, I didn't do it for malicious reasons. I did it because I was protecting me and my kids.
If it comes from a place of protecting yourself or just taking care of your heart and your soul and your children, you won't feel regret.
No, honestly, if it was some silly, stupid fucking fight.
If it was a fight and I just don't want this around, I've had enough. No.
Totally.
You will feel stupid, but if it's quite a long time and you've tried therapy and you've exhausted all the resources and avenues, you will come to a peace.
You'll be fine regardless of what happens if worst case you were to lose a parent while you're not communicating, because I've seen a friend recently go through this and talking back and forth for her, it was a good year decision where she had to be do I completely cut them off and completely cut them, let them back in, and did this dance for over a year and will continue to maybe for the rest of her life. But one of the biggest things, consistent things I heard her say was she's I saw you lose your dad when you weren't communicating. It's just I don't want to have those kinds of things over my head or regrets or whatever. And I was just you don't. You really don't, because you're doing it to bring out the best version in you and
heal.
Totally. Just need to heal it, protect you, protect your family. That is the right decision for you. Regardless, we could all die today. Yeah. You can't hold things like that over your head.
As you can feel okay with it and comfortable with it, it's what's best for you.
Totally.
And no one can tell you otherwise. No one can go, but it's your mum or it's your sister.
Yeah. If they haven't lived it or walked a day in your shoes, no one can comment. Yes. No one.
Agreed.
So anyway, we could bloody... Should we go get the vodka?
Oh, God.
Margarita. God. I want a margarita this week so bad. I got to the 4-week mark and I was I am killing it. I don't think I'll ever drink again. Remember?
Yeah, you said that. I don't think I'll...
And then a week with 6 kids, I was where's the coconut tequila at? Bring the chili salt.
I know.
Oh, anyway, thank you so much, my love, for
thank you
opening
for
up
having
about
me
this.
on. It's so
And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'll put mine and Claudia's little like thing in the bio, and feel free to reach out to either of us whenever.
Yes.
Amazing.
Thank
Bye.
you.